What do you know? We are back to narrow gauge land. There were a few stories told in Season 5, and that was it. Nice to see we haven't forgotten them. Rheneas, Skarloey, and Rusty were all headed to the slate quarry. The task at hand was to help Duncan. Because who wouldn't want to help old Bumble Duncan? Actually, no one. They had a different reason.
They liked the clever way the loaded slate cars roll down the incline, pulling the empty slate cars up. But they are always careful.
Yes, I agree. I'm sure fans can remember Season 4's trucks and Season 5's snow episode. Both were pretty collateral events, but nevertheless, the three liked working at the slate quarry. The only engine who didn't was old Bumble Duncan. He much preferred to be at the junction, thus making him very impatient.
I'm a plain-speaking engine, gruffed Duncan. So collect your slate cars and be quick about it. And off he steamed. Bossy boots chuffed Rheneas. Pushy puffer huffed Skarloey. They didn't like Duncan telling them what to do.
And Duncan's voice isn't Scottish anymore. It's no longer a surprise, but still a disappointment. I've literally given up expecting any voices to remain consistent by this point. However, I don't mind the voice Baldwin's using. It just should be used for another engine. And to correct Rheneas, he should have said bossy buffer so it rhymed with Skarloey's pushy puffer. I don't know. For that, it would have been fine. Duncan doesn't have boots anyway. Hey, but I'm not complaining. Rheneas is speaking. Woohoo!
Later that day, Duncan was working the incline. I'll show you how fast a really useful engine can work, Duncan called as he hastily biffed one slate car into another. And then another. Soon, Duncan had his 4 slate cars. Nothing to it.
Yeah, if only engines could work that fast. All 3 engines tried to tell Duncan to slow down and be careful. Of course, for Duncan, he wanted to rock and roll like he used to in Season 4. So he didn't care. Nah, that mentality is for chump trains. So with that, Rheneas, Skarloey, and Rusty all moved far away from Duncan because they had the proper foresight to do so.
Duncan was so impatient he became even more careless. I'll show that smelly diesel and those lazy steamers, he said to his driver. Careful, cautioned his driver. You're asking for trouble. And he got it.
Okay, so this driver knows the consequences of Duncan's reckless behavior, yet he's the one controlling him. I really regret bringing this topic up again, but it's the driver who needs to be careful, not Duncan. It's like he's talking to himself. It's really bizarre when you think about it, which is why I'm forgetting I ever said this.
Rusty returned to see Duncan being pulled up the incline. I tried to warn him, said Rusty. He never listens, the little diesel's driver said.
Who never listens? Duncan or his driver? Just kidding, I said I'm not going there again. Anyway, with Duncan's coupling being all goofed up thanks to some careless operator, things were about to get even crappier for the gruff puffer. Like every other time, the winch would not hold Duncan's weight, so we all know what happens next.
Duncan plummeted down the incline. Help! He yelled. Bluggle my bloiler. Duncan felt foolish.
For some reason, the look of Duncan just gliding right off into the swamp sludge was hilarious. It was just straight backwards. And of course, by that time, he knew he had done wrong. And that meant you-know-who was coming for a visit. Oh well, poop, poop, poop. Serves you right, as Gordon would say.
You owe these engines an apology. Sorry, Duncan said to Rusty, Rheneas, and Skarloey. Once you have been repaired, Sir Topham Hatt said, you will work the incline until you learn to be patient and careful. Yes, sir, said Duncan.
Yeah, that's about all he could say. Duncan was just flat out in the wrong here and went about his work in a way that cannot be excused. Being that he has been shown to be reckless like rock and roll from Season 4, he should know better. But old habits are hard to break, I guess. I just enjoy the fact more of how the other 3 engines just moved out of the way so that when things got out of control, they were nowhere near the crash site. It's also nice that Rheneas had some more lines to say, being that he had very little in Season 4 and Season 5. However, that still doesn't excuse Baldwin's lack of trying for Duncan. He gave him such a great voice in Season 5, and it's a shame he didn't follow through on it. Music was actually kept fairly retro for this entry. The narrative starts off with the Skarloey Railway theme, and repeats it a couple times. In between are more classical-sounding incidental cues and top hats at the end. As for visuals, fans get to see what the updated Slate Quarry, Rheneas' Viaduct, and Skarloey's Bridge all look like. Thankfully, they seem very much the same, but given a fresh look. The viaduct especially, since it has little moss drapes on it near the arches. Next episode is Rusty Saves the Day. Thanks for watching.